I'm here to give advice. All right, so today in our first video, I'm going to be talking about the pros and cons of online music lessons. My notes here, so if I look down, that's what I'm checking on, okay? So let's start with the pros. All right, so the pro, and these are things that my students actually recommended. I interviewed them, and this is mostly my students, so I'm really proud of them. So the first pro is less time and physical constraint. So what do I mean? That means I don't have to deal with traveling to my students' place, or they don't have to travel to me, or we don't have to travel to a neutral location at a music school. They're just at home. So it's just when they're home, they can have a lesson for the most part. So the traveling takes over half of my time if I'm going around the city. So it really allows for much more. I can pack my lessons together and really sort of work in a more orderly fashion rather than riding the subway and taxis or whatever in between. So it's easier for everybody. I don't have to worry about soccer getting in the way. 15 minutes can make a big difference, I will tell you that, okay? Between starting and finishing, and having to get out the door for them to get to soccer or for them to go somewhere else or another lesson. It's just stressful lives. All right, so the second pro is comfort. All right, so what do I mean by comfort? Two things. I think this, right? I don't seem as threatening when I'm on a screen, and so my students really feel comfortable. I'm not there in their space. You know, they're at home, they're comfortable, so that's nice. And I don't have to, even if I went to them, it would be like another energy, right? Because I'm there and I'm just like watching them. I have nothing else to do but just kind of stare at them and look around the room and whatnot. But the fact that there's this technology that kind of distances us actually makes the students more at ease. They're like, oh, he's on the screen, you know, what he sees, this is the world, right, that everybody knows about. It's this, whatever is pictured on the screen is what it is, and it's not like what's happening out there or whatnot, you know. All right, so I find my students much more comfortable on screen, and most students, younger, older, whatever, technology is a modern, you know, a fact of life, I guess, fact of modern life. So they're used to sort of this now, especially after the whole pandemic craziness. So my third pro, and this is a kind of bonus, sneaky one, is mine, right? The teacher aspect is I find that the students take more responsibility, and they're sort of, I can't play with them for other reasons we'll talk about later, but it's just one-way communication. They just do their thing and then I comment on it, but I'm not there to like stop them or get in their way. They just kind of have to do it, and they're on their own essentially when they're playing. And that, I feel that my students progress so much because they really know that I'm not there to sort of like bail them out. I just kind of wait to see what happens. So I'm like, right, can they fix it? Only if they get stuck when I say something, but you know, again, my students really do well, I think. They don't admit it because they like playing together with me, but the training wheels are off. They do really well, okay? All right, so to the cons. All right, so we can't play together. That's the biggest one, right? There's latency with the technology, and when I play, they hear it like a second later, and a second can be, and they play, and then I hear it like a second or two later, and it's never the same delay, and yeah, a second can be a rest, many notes, you know, and so there's no way to play together. There's no way to anticipate the latency between devices and connections, and it's really hard. So that's the biggest con, all right? So with that, there's only one-way communication. That's number two, okay? One-way communication. So I find that it can be overcome with certain strategies. So, you know, you can say, play from the beginning to the middle of the page, or play the two phrases or something like that, you know, 8 measures, 16 measures. If you be very clear about what they're playing, the student feels confident. They're like, okay, I know from here to here, okay, I'll do that. And again, they take responsibility for it, and then I can comment on it after and make some corrections or suggestions or congratulations, whatever it may be, based off of how they did that little section, and then we can move on. Another strategy is I do have students, when they're really know something well, they'll play from beginning to end, right? And then I'll kind of make notes in my music. without stopping them. And then after, I'll say, hey, in this section I see here I wrote this, and then over here I wrote that, and so that's another way to address it. But again, it's all about students need to take responsibility for their performance. I'm not there to sort of bail them out at on any given moment there. I'm just kind of passive. I just have to listen, you know. Good and bad. Mostly tricky, but you know, it can be overcome. You know, the number 3 for cons is it's harder for beginners, and for reasons of positioning. So this is not a normal position, right? This is not normal. I mean, this takes some time. It might look simple, but you know, all of this placement, the thumb has to be bent here. Like, there's a lot going on, and so this is really hard to teach this. It really has to be broken down in little bits. You know, hold the bow. Get your thumb. Can you bend your thumb and put it right here? And then, of course, that is the issue. It's like, well, wait. They're looking at the screen and they're like, yeah. So you have to be very clear. Right hand, thumb bent. Left hand holding the bow, right? This part, the frog, has to meet the thumb. So you have to break things down very, very carefully and review a lot. But, you know, learning is never easy, even in person, but it takes extra care when doing it virtually. Another example is for any student, let's play C sharp. Let's play C natural. You see my second finger moving? Minuscule. It's so hard to see that. So the technology makes it very difficult to sort of see that. Depends on your screen and all of that too. So things take more talking through, right? Especially for beginners. Dealing with technology, we kind of talked about this, you know, but this one is more specific to everybody has their own devices, right? Are you on a laptop, or even an iPad, tablet, whatever it might be, and each one has its quirks. So I know certain persons, okay, their webcam's a little bit shaky sometimes, it's not so clear, they need better lighting or whatnot, and then they start to learn how to position themselves and use the technology they have as best as possible. But that does take time to set up, right? And then the crazy bugaboo, right? It's internet connection. So what to do about that? I mean, you're at the mercy of it. So they have to know how to log back in. So it can't be just, you know, parents or adults who are logging in all the time for them. They should be able to do it themselves, because what if the connection drops out, which happens quite often actually, depending, and they have to log in. And so my students are like, where are you? I found you, okay, ding dong, right? And then you're back on with Zoom. So technology has its quirks. That's all I'll say. So it's mainly a con, you know, that doesn't happen in personal, close contact lessons in person, right? Here's a bonus one in a way, a pro and a con, right? For any instrument, but mainly strings. Strings is notorious, right? For tuning. If any of these are out of tune, even if you have your fingers in the correct part, the correct spacing or correct area, right? It's still not in tune because the string's not in tune. So yeah, that's really tricky. That the tuning has to be right. And honestly, traditionally, in person, you know, it's like the student's like, I don't know, here's my violin. You take the violin, you tune it. Here you go. 30 seconds, easy, done, right? I do this like hundreds of times, or you know, a year probably tuning instruments for other people, and that's it. It's easy. And so we usually avoid that. Why do we avoid having the students tune? Is because, you know, the pegs and it could break the strings, and then replacing the strings, that's a whole other issue. So what I found is that it takes a lot of time to teach students how to tune. So I do it very slowly. Tune here, do that. And they do really well though. Like they download the app. So we have ClearTune that I use a lot, and InStuner, INSTUNER. It's free. It works really well. It's easy to understand. They see A, and then they see down or up, and then they know which way to turn the fine tuner, and they figure it out. And so I have first year students now, which is unheard of usually, tuning their instruments confidently. And I think of it as a pro actually, because again, they're taking responsibility and doing fantastically. It's just, that's almost unheard of. Again, like first year, second year students, third year students maybe would be tuning, second year maybe. but like first year, forget about it. You know, it's just, it's incredible. So technology is really helping in that sense. It's a con at first, especially for the student. They don't want to do it. Once they learn, they really become confident. All right, so those are my tips, tricks, along with, well, the pros and cons and some tips and tricks for online music lessons, virtual music lessons, whatever you may want to call it. But if you like this video, subscribe, like, share. But if you want more tips and tricks coming, that's on its way. I plan to do Suzuki playthroughs of all the Suzuki repertoire for violin and viola, Mark O'Connor, whatever method book that people want to suggest. Those are the main ones that I use. Essential Elements, great for classroom teaching, so I can do playthroughs of that. And we can just talk about equipment and answer any of your questions that you might have, because I am the practice Manny.